Reinier,
Yeah,
do you recognize this song?
I recognize the song. I think everybody recognizes this song.
Who of you knows this song? Well, you know the music, but you don't know our lyrics. So we're going to show some lyrics here, and we're going to all sing along, right? So I'll give a mark, and then we start. If there's too much code, and it don't look good, who you gonna call? Boilerplate Busters!
Hi and welcome to our talk. My name is Reinier Zwitserloot and I work at Zorg op Orde, and we try to make life easy for general practitioners by, that's huisartsen for the Dutch people in the audience, by giving them, by allowing them to give better care to their patients and be more profitable while they're at it.
And my name is Roel Spilker. I work at Topdesk. We make service management software, or help desk software in short. And we have developers in Delft, Kaiserslautern, and Budapest.
And actually, we make one more thing.
Lombok.
Exactly.
Okay, so who of you uses Lombok? Oh, that's quite a lot. So who of you who don't know what Lombok is, it's a plugin for your IDE and your compiler to get rid of the boilerplate code. And today we're celebrating.
Ooh, a party. What are we celebrating?
This year is our 10-year anniversary.
10 years?
Yes, 10 years.
10 years of busting boilerplate.
Yep.
I don't know. I think we need like a hearth and like an old bottle of scotch and some cigars.
Maybe tonight after this presentation we're going to have that. Okay. But now I feel more in the mood to look back, to think about our biggest mistakes.
I guess if we want to be here 10 years from now, it would be good to have a bit of an introspection, right? Maybe share some lessons. Okay, I see. Well, let me try to think of something.
Mm-hmm.
I remember issue 164.
Oh.
Interesting issue. So we could never reproduce it, but we get like this steady trickle of bug reports, so there was something there. And I think we spent 3 versions actually putting logging code in Lombok just in the vain hope that somebody runs into this when it was enabled. And eventually we figured it out, like 6 months later, it was some sort of race condition, and we fixed it by removing static from one variable. So that was 3 months of effort to remove 6 characters. That is like the weirdest like bang for the buck per character in my entire career.
So, Reinier, that's a great war story, but that's not the type of mistakes I mean here. I want to have mistakes where the audience, where other open source projects can learn something from. So let's focus on the bigger mistakes.
So you want like lessons that any open source project can learn from?
Yeah.
I see. Okay. And I saw when we started, we had a painting, The Great Wave by Hokusai. What was that about?
Yeah, I thought, let's be humble in the presence of these masterpieces.
Oh, I see. So no scorch, but some masterpieces.
Yes.
I see. Okay. Well, I think I have a painting for you that might sort of give us some introspection on our 10 years of working on Lombok. How about this painting?
It's a bit overwhelming, but I do feel sympathy. I understand this guy.
Do you?
Yeah, I do. And I'll tell you why. Because I looked at our Lombok issue tracker, and then I saw the number of open issues, and I was like,
590 open issues.
590, and 7 of those were in the last day.
Oh, wow. Yeah, well, I think I get it.
That's why I feel connected to the painting The Scream by Edward Munch.
Well,
so
I remember, right?
Yeah.
Oh, sorry.
So we get a lot of pull requests, issues, questions on our forum, and the list just keeps growing and growing. And the thing is, the more issues you have open, the more people start asking, when is this going to be resolved? What is the status? So there's even more traffic that we need to respond to. And also, if you have a lot of open issues, you get duplicate issues because people only look at the first page. You say, oh, well, it's not on the first page, so let's add another issue. So that is horrible.
But that's what happened. I remember 10 years ago, we got our very first bug report.
Yeah.
It was adorable. We were celebrating because it meant we had users other than ourselves. So I think we dropped everything we were doing, we fixed it immediately, and it was just such a happy event. And now I guess 10 years happened, and now this happened. So how do we solve this problem?
Well, we didn't solve it entirely. So every Tuesday night, we sit together and we start working on Lombok. And we try to deal with as many issues as we can.
Okay, but I guess that led to 590 open issues. I don't understand.
Yeah, so working on it every Tuesday night wasn't sufficient. And I don't have more time to spend on it. But we have to keep our backlog clean. So we need to figure out how to do that. So since the beginning of this year, we have a new policy, clean backlogs. We'll do whatever it takes to either categorize or close the issues from the past week.
Okay, but then we're still on 590 though.
Yeah, so we are learning now how to be fast and ruthless. The backlog has to be contained. There's no other option here. So, as I said, since the beginning of this year, we either close the issues if they can be closed. So luckily, some other contributors also suggest, like, hey, this is already solved, or this can be closed.
That definitely helps.
Yep. And then also, if a bug isn't immediately clear, we ask the reporter to provide us with a simple test case, so we can at least reproduce the bug or pinpoint where it is, and that we know when it's solved. So we ask them to reproduce it. And we don't study the whole thing. We just ask if there's no reproduction recipe, we're not going to touch it. We're just going to ask for a reproduction recipe. And then we label the issue as parked. And we put in a comment, if you don't respond to this issue within 2 weeks, we're going to close the issue.
Okay, but that sounds kind of ruthless, though.
Yeah, it is.
But what if the bug report makes it pretty clear that something's going on and something isn't quite right?
So, Reinier.
Yeah.
I have 3 options for you.
Okay.
Option A is we have over 1,000 open bugs.
Pass.
Okay. Then I have option B for you. We spent all our Lombok time together in chasing or trying to reproduce vague bug reports.
No, thank you.
Okay. Then the final option, be ruthless.
Ah, okay. I see where you're coming from.
So even if there is a real bug, and we're convinced that there is a bug, we have to do this. We have to trust the user to come up with a reproduction recipe. So the lesson is to make sure that you have the time to add value, clean your backlog.
I think that's a good lesson.
No matter what.
I guess otherwise you go a little insane.
Yeah, the alternative is you go insane!
Okay. So you like this painting? This was a good painting.
I feel connected to the painting,
purposes?
yes.
Okay. So do you have a painting for me?
I have a painting for you.
Ah. Okay, well, this painting and your story sort of makes me think, right? So when we do get a good bug report with a way to reproduce it, and we fix it, then still we get more bug reports because, hey, in the time we're fixing it, you just saw how fast this goes. We get 3 more bug reports about the same thing. And even after we fix it, we don't spin off a release immediately, so they just sort of keep flowing in, right? So what we sort of feel like we have to put out a release. But it's not a good idea to control your releases based on the need to feel like you have to do it just to sort of stem the tide of bug reports, right? It would be better to control your releases when you feel, pretty good about it. So, and one of the issues about bugs is usually they're pretty clear, but you're not always sure. And it's always a good idea when you get a bug report from an external user to ask for feedback, right? Did this actually fix it, or is it more complicated than we thought? And way back then, 10 years ago, when we got a bug report, we would fix it, and we would reply to the bug, hey, we fixed it, you should be happy now, here's the git commit ID. Good luck, could you give some feedback? And we rarely got feedback. And maybe that's because, well, think about it, right? What we're basically asking them to do is say, okay, clone the entire Git repo, then run the build, then integrate this build product, sort of pray that it all worked out, integrate this build project into your project, and then give us feedback about whether it worked or not. And it's a little complicated. So, we took inspiration from other projects, and we thought, what we're going to do is we're going to make edge releases. This is maybe a strip by Escher. We're going to go with edge releases, or nightlies, as other projects call them. So now we have a slightly new schedule. We can just try to fix the bug, let's say, make an edge release, and then ask for feedback. And this is a lot easier because they can now skip the git clone step, and they can also skip the build step. But even then, we didn't get quite as much feedback as we thought. So last year, we made it even easier. I mean, basically, I mean, people use different build systems, but just about all the Java build systems are built around Maven Central. So we run our own repository. So now we make it as simple as just put that repository in your file, and we can pretty much almost immediately ensure that a new Edge release shows up on this particular Maven repository, which means asking for feedback is real easy now.
So the mistake we made is we made it too hard for our users to verify our bug fixes.
Exactly. And the lesson is you have to release your snapshots. That way you get more feedback. How do you like this?
Oh, I love it. Especially the center part. A lot of people there. There's a party going on.
Ah, definitely.
It reminds me a bit of our GitHub users.
Speaking of Git, I think I saw a pull request.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, I love this pull request.
Oh,
This
cool.
is great. Yeah. So it was a pull request, and it had everything that we wanted. So there was the implementations for Java C, for Eclipse. There were tests for it. There was documentation. I tell you what. He even used our coding style.
That's amazing.
It is the best pull request ever.
Did you find the perfect pull request?
I found the perfect pull request.
Well, tell me more about this pull request.
Yeah,
what does it do?
So it is an extension of our toString implementation. And at the top of the screen, you can just see what the result of the generated toString method would be. So what he said is, I want to be able to see, instead of just see the word painting, as would be the Lombok default, I want to see the full qualified name of the type. So com.topdesk.art.painting. And then for the prefix, instead of a parenthesis, I want to have the curly braces. For the suffix, I want to have the square bracket.
Wait, hold on. It's a little weird to open with a curly brace and close with a square bracket.
It is, but I think it's artistic license.
You're making your own little model.
Yes, I'm making my own art. So the separator between the field name and the value could be specified as a colon instead, and between two fields we'll use the pipe symbol.
Okay, so this is what the feature request adds. Implementation, documentation, tests, the whole shebang. Okay.
Yeah. Let's also show what is already in there.
Right.
So we have 3 other things that are already in Lombok. So this would be the toString then.
That's cool. I love this. There's one little detail, and the committer actually said they were thinking about an upgrade.
Yeah.
I'm going to take some advice from logging frameworks. So com.topdesk.art.painting, that's a bit of a mouthful. It will be easier if we just say, what about we shorten the package names and we make it c.t.a.painting.
Or like in logging. Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah, good one.
So if we make it an enum, we can sort of control different styles.
I have some other suggestions as well. I heard this a lot, and some of them are on my own. So for instance, look at the name of the artist, it's Hieronymus Boss. It's a string. Let's have some quotes around it.
Well, I think that, it's just a toString. I don't think it matters. But you know what, we'll make it configurable, then we both get what we want.
Good. And then if you look at the date of the painting, it says here the 1st of October, the year 1500. So I know it's not painted at that date. It's dated somewhere in the 1500s. So I want to have a different representation for my dates in my class.
Well, debuggers have this thing where you can have custom type renderers.
Yes.
Okay, so how about we just add those then?
Perfect.
Awesome.
Good. Also, I look at a list of exhibitions. It doesn't even fit on the screen. So what I want to have is, if it's a listy type of field, and there are too many entries in there, just give me the amount of entries, like exhibitions 25.
So should we limit it like 50 or 10 or 20? What's a good limit?
Let's make that configurable as well.
Oh, good idea.
Yeah.
How about this?
Yeah, and
look at that pretty toString.
Nice. There was another one. So if the field name is, so if the value is empty, like the empty string or 0 or false, or if it contains a null, then I just want to omit the entire field.
That's a stupid idea.
No, it's a great idea.
No, it's stupid. I don't like that idea at all.
Why don't you like the idea?
Because my screen is full.
That's
no
a
more
very
room
good
for new
argument.
features.
That is a good one. That is a good one. So. Yeah, we have so many features here, and I guess that's why you picked this masterpiece for me. So, The Garden of Earthly Delight by Hieronymus Boss. And I know a bit of art, and I know that you have to read paintings from left to right. So on the left, we are in paradise. Everything is nice, simple, clean. And on the right-hand side, there's so much chaos. It's a image. It's hell.
It's a story, right? So we start out just the 2 of us, and it's all fun and games, and then GitHub users show up, and then all hell breaks loose.
Yeah, so we had to reject this pull request.
What? But it was the perfect pull request.
It is, but creating a pull request is a one-off thing. So you think, okay, I can do this. You spend a bit of time on it, and you create a feature, some tests, and they say, here's a pull request. And then you're done. Then your responsibility ends as a committer. But we are the maintainers of Lombok, so we have to maintain this code indefinitely. And also we need to think about interaction between these features and other existing features already present in Lombok, and also some future features that we are thinking about right now. So we need to take that into account. So there's a maintenance burden, there is interaction with other features, and also for our users, they get a steeper learning curve if they need to know all the specific attributes. So it's also harder for our users. So we definitely need to limit the amount of features we're adding.
I see. So what's the lesson then?
So the lesson is to prevent instabilities or a maintenance burden, add features carefully.
That's a good idea. So this is one of my favorite paintings.
Is it?
And I guess I like lots of boxes. Because this reminds me, way back when we started, a very first version of Lombok that had data, getter, setter, toString, and hash code, and equals and hash code. But then about a year later, we added our first entirely new feature. It was called delegate. And what delegate does is, who here has heard about the notion composition over inheritance?
Yeah.
So that's almost everybody here, right? So just to explain the idea, let's say you have a class and you need the class to be kind of list-like. You could extend ArrayList, then you get the functionality for free, but the problem is you have absolutely no control over what you're getting. You get everything. You cannot be selective. What's usually the notion behind composition over inheritance says it's better to create a field. The field will be of type list or ArrayList, and then you can be more selective. You can, whatever methods you need, you can just add, and your implementation is going to be a one-liner because you just call the field. Now, what delegate does is makes this easy for you. You just put delegate on your field, and Lombok will take care of it for you. But it was a little tricky to write. And also, the syntax that we created to build this feature, we thought maybe we can do a better job, but we couldn't quite nail it. And we were really excited about this feature. So we thought, you know what, we'll explain to users, we'll post on our mailing list that it's a little bit tricky of a feature, but we're really excited about it, so we're going to release it. And we did. But success kind of ties your hands, right? Delegate is now 9 years old. Now imagine that we think of a better way to do it, right? And we know that in our head, delegate was always like, maybe one day we'll really crack this nut and do a better job. But our users don't know. So if we fix delegate and make it better, and we break backwards compatibility while doing so, we're going to get hundreds, thousands of bug reports. Or it's going to get much worse. So that doesn't work. So for delegate, we did not learn this lesson, but we did fix this problem. We added the concept of an experimental feature. Now, in our documentation, we explained what an experimental feature is, but for Lombok, as Lombok is mostly annotation-based, we made it real easy for you. Every Lombok annotation lives in a package, and all the experimental features live in the package lombok.experimental. Hard to miss, right? Now, on our documentation page, we make clear what it means, and what we also can do, and how Lombok works, is you can configure Lombok to say, I don't want to bother with these experimental features. So it makes it much easier for us to be clear to our users, hey, maybe one day we'll do a better job on this, and we actually explain what we're thinking of when we say better job. And if we ever find it, we're just going to replace delegate. That sounds like a better option than introducing @delegate to, right? And that's sort of why I like this painting so much, right? We have created our own little experimental box, and this is Victory Boogie Woogie by Piet Mondriaan.
Yeah, I would say that the whole painting is a big experiment itself. So,
well, that's the lesson, right? If you want to be able to add new features and without restricting yourself so much, mark new features as experimental.
Good lesson. Oh, you have one for me. Oh, great. The Mona Lisa by Leonardo da Vinci. Probably one of the greatest masterpieces of all.
So, do you think that Leonardo da Vinci knew this was going to be considered the greatest piece of art ever when he painted it?
I don't know. So I can say that I don't want to compare this masterpiece to Lombok. But
why not? Lombok is our masterpiece.
Yeah, well, in 500 years, no one's going to remember Lombok.
Maybe.
But if you look at the visitors on our website, The last year, we had over 1 million visitors. So it's quite popular. And I don't know if he anticipated it, but we certainly didn't anticipate so many users. So it doesn't mean that we didn't try to share and get users. We go to conferences. Even in the first year, we went to DevVox and taught people about it.
So it's our fault.
It's our own fault, yes. But maintaining an open source, a popular open source project has its own set of challenges. You talked about backwards incompatibility or backwards compatibility. We cannot change anything in the existing code, or some user will be offended or will encounter a bug. Recently, we changed the text in the exception of the null pointer, null check, and people said, "Yeah, you broke our build because we had a test to text."
They were testing the text of their exceptions.
Yes.
Okay, well, that's further than I test my stuff, but I guess some users do that.
Yeah, so we don't know how they are using our product, but we know that if we change anything at all, there's going to be some people that are affected by it, negatively affected by it.
I see.
And also, the other thing is that maintaining a website, when we started, I knew a bit of HTML, but I didn't know anything about hosting a website that is capable of this many visitors. So even if we have an update to the website and it goes down for a few minutes, people will notice.
Certainly. So what's the lesson you're trying to explain here?
So this lesson is a bit vague. So what I'm just trying to tell here is that we started out creating software, doing some programming, adding features, and we ended up becoming a maintainer and being most of our time busy with handling bug reports, fixing those bugs that are sometimes in very atypical infrastructures, that if you use this library and this library on this platform, there is a bug. I didn't expect to be an expert on that. Also, yeah, I didn't want to become a network maintainer or whatever. So the thing is, the lesson is, and this is vague, to prevent nasty surprises, prepare for success.
I see. Okay, so let me give that a shot then. Right? Let's be more prepared. See, the thing about having that many visitors, and the thing about being a fairly popular project for 10 years, is we get lots of offers for our contribution. And it's not just pull requests for new features. It's pull requests for bugs, or pull requests for performance optimizations. We love those. But it's also an offer to update our website. Or the most interesting one of all, an offer to help. And then they ask us for advice. But what do you need help with? And that question is a lot trickier than it sounds like. And there's this thing about a pull request, right? We already said it. Make no mistake, if you're the maintainer and you press that merge button on that pull request, you're adopting it like it's a child, right? You take on the maintenance burden, and you better understand how that works, because you're on the hook for it, unless you make it a policy that they staple a contract to all their pull requests that they will offer to maintain it for 10 years. You're going to have to do it yourself, right? So is there a... So that's the first thing. But there is more. The Eclipse Foundation contacted us, this is a while ago, and they said, okay, guys, we noticed we want to use Lombok in Eclipse. We noticed that it's MIT licensed, that's great, because it's completely compatible with what we do. But can you vouch for that? Which was a weird question. What does that mean? So I asked, and they said, well, for the intellectual property rights, can you vouch for that? Still don't know what that means. Well, we checked the Git commits, and while you two certainly have plenty of commits in there are other people, right? Pull requests, etc. Can you vouch that they have the intellectual property rights to their commits? Well, I only know their GitHub IDs. I don't really know how to answer this question. So we write code, and we maintain a website, and now I need to become a legal expert?
Yeah.
This sounds very tricky. Did we solve that problem?
We did.
Oh. How did we solve that?
I used my favorite solution on solving problems.
Okay.
Yeah. I looked at how did other people solve it.
Good idea.
Yeah. So I took another very popular Java open source project, Google Guava. Probably everyone knows here. I contacted their lead maintainer, and I asked him, does it work? They have a solution, and I asked them, does it work? And can we copy it?
So, does it work?
Yes.
Can we copy it?
Yes.
Okay, so what is it?
Okay. So the thing is, what you can do is, in the root of your project make an authors file. And in this authors file, you have to make clear that the people that are in the file, that they state that they understand the open source nature of your project and that they have the intellectual property rights. And what we do is we ask all contributors on their first pull request to also modify this file. So in the Git history, it's clear that they added their name to the file and that they understand what they are doing.
And this is good enough for Guava?
Well, yeah, and if it's good enough for Google, I'll take it.
For me. Okay. Well, that's a good way to solve this problem. But going back to this painting, and going back to authors and names, I'm interested in names. What is this painting called?
Who knows?
Does anybody know what this painting is called?
Nachtwacht.
Nachtwacht?
I hear Nachtwacht.
Nachtwacht?
Nachtwacht.
No, of course not. This is the shooting company of Frans Banning-Kok and Willem van Ruitenburg, which is the actual name of that painting. Though I will admit that everybody knows it as the Nachtwacht, the Night Watch.
So who are we then?
I guess we are the hacking company of Reinier Zwitserloot and Roel Spilker, maybe. That's a bit of a mouthful. It's also not really what we are, right? We can't really introduce ourselves as Project Lombok by Roel Spilker or Reinier Zwitserloot because we have pull requests, we have more authors than that. And the authors file solves that problem when people ask, so who writes Project Lombok? Well, the authors of Project Lombok. Who are the authors of Project Lombok? Well, check our authors file. Makes it nice and easy. So that solves a naming problem. But going back to the other problem I mentioned, what do we do when somebody contacts us and say, hey, I want to contribute, but do you have any idea what you need help with? And there is a tricky question, but we think we have some tips on when, as an open source maintainer, you're confronted with that kind of question. And there are two important things to think about when you get an offer to help. The first one is how complicated it is for the contributor, and the second is the maintenance burden. So let's go for the first one, right? We have stickers.
Yes.
It's a nice logo, right? And trust us, you don't want us to, design a sticker. That's a contribution. And that's an excellent place to contribute because you do not need to be intimately familiar with every nook and cranny of the source of Project Lombok in order to make a sticker. So that's easy, right? It's a bit rich to ask somebody, hey, if you want to contribute, fix this really complicated bug like bug 164 that requires a lot of intimate knowledge about how Lombok works, right? So what we do these days is when we see an issue that feels like you don't need to know all that much about Lombok to get closer to fixing it, or you want to redesign the website or anything that's a little bit more tangential, we put a tag, help wanted, on the Git issue. And I've seen other Git repos do this, so that's a very good idea. And you need to kind of resist and don't try to pick those up yourself, right? Our job is to go for the really complicated ones. It's a better idea. And the second thing to think about is a maintenance burden, because, hey, if you merge it, it's on you, right? So we use Ant to build Project Lombok. And probably because people think that's a very outdated product, which is probably true, we have gotten 3 different offers to replace our build system with something more modern. Now, first of all, I don't think that's a good idea because I'm pretty sure that Project Lombok has the most complicated build of all Java projects on all of GitHub. We built with 5 different compile steps, targeting 4 different compilers, downloading 3 different JVMs for testing purposes, and completely rewriting the jar file in order to ensure that Lombok can run as a single jar file. There's a reason we use Ant for this. It's very scripted, right? But forget all that. If the build is crucial, if the build breaks, there's nothing else you can do. You can't fix any bugs. You would need to fix the build first. So if we accept as a contribution an update to the build, I better understand precisely how it works, because if it breaks, I'm on the hook. I need to fix it, right? So if there is something you would like help with, but you know it's going to be a pretty big maintenance burden down the line, be careful. That might be more the stuff you need yourself, right? And for stuff where they contributed and then it takes a lot less maintenance, that's an excellent one for a contribution.
So, do you have a lesson?
Yes, the lesson is to get help from others while preventing legal issues, manage your contributors.
Good lesson. Speaking of contributions, let's talk about finance.
Ah, yes, the KISS by Gustav Klimt. I think I know what's going on here, right? I see lots of gold. It's very rich. This is all about the money.
No, I was thinking more about the appreciation and affection here.
You think this painting is all about the love?
Yeah, it's about love. So even the smallest open source project has some costs. So it could be the cost of owning your own domain and having some bandwidth there. We had these stickers created. We're traveling to these venues abroad as well. So there's costs involved. And yeah, those costs eventually need to be paid.
Well, I run my own company, so I guess I can file this for tax break and file this as a business expense?
Yeah, you could. Or in my case, my boss pays for the trips and stays at the hotels. So he paid for the suits.
And in fairness, he paid for some of the trips for me as well. So that is one way to go, corporate sponsorship.
Yeah, corporate sponsorship is one. And this one was easy because it's the same company that pays for my day job. Easy to find.
Yeah, but other than that, saying corporate sponsorship, that is easier said than done.
Yeah. So for the first 10 years, we've spent every week programming in Lombok, and we took care of the hosting costs ourselves. We didn't have any income at all. And that's a lot of Tuesday evenings that we've been hacking together.
Well, 52 times 10 is 520 of them.
Yeah, and we do it out of love.
Okay.
So, yeah, so we spent money on it. But things have changed since then, because we were sharing an apartment. We were students or just past students. So that was fine. And now we have wives, girlfriends, multiple, maybe. It's different, a different situation. So my wife, she asked me, like, why do you have to go and program every Tuesday? Why do I need to miss you at home? And why are you spending time on this website? And you should be paid for it, or at least not spend money on it. And I said, I do it out of love. And she said, yeah, okay. And I understand it. So what I would love to see is that every now and then I can take her out to dinner and say, courtesy of Project Lombok. That would be perfect.
That seems reasonable.
Yeah.
That's in the theme.
Yeah. So what we did is actually we opened a Patreon account. Who of you knows Patreon? Yeah, so you know it's donation stuff. So we have people donating to our Patreon account.
Awesome.
Yeah. It's, I think, 33 people, something like that.
Awesome. Well, that'll probably pay for the hosting cost then, but...
yeah, but not for the stickers.
Okay.
So, but 3 years ago, we were at JavaLand, Java conference in Germany, and we were approached by people from different organizations, and they told me, our boss thinks we shouldn't use Lombok. And I said,
why not?
Why not? And they said, because it's free and open source.
Ooh.
And he wasn't that concerned about open source, but he was concerned about, like, would we still be there 10 years from now? Would we keep supporting this? Because if it's free and open source, there's no obligation for me to keep doing this. So he said, our boss wants to incentivize you to keep working on it. They want to give you money so that you can keep doing this.
Sounds good.
Yeah. So what we now have is also we have professional and even enterprise licenses.
What's the difference?
In the enterprise license, we say that you pay more, of course.
Of course.
So we allow for the professional, we allow people to upload a logo, and we will make a link to their website. But for the enterprise license, they can upload a golden version of their logo.
Oh, excellent.
Yeah.
That's very enterprisey.
Yeah.
I like that.
Yeah. So that's what we did.
So, where's the money?
Yeah, we have 6 licensees, all professional licenses.
6 licensees?
Yes.
Surely one of them is like a really big company like Google. Or
yeah, if by big you mean that like the smallest is 1.
I was hoping for a little more than that.
You want to know the biggest?
Yes.
12 seats.
Oh dear.
12 developers.
That doesn't really help.
With our corporate licenses, and our corporate sponsorship, that's going here. That's already good. But from our donations and licenses, we can't pay the costs. So you need to have something else. You need to have either corporate sponsorship, adopt a freemium model, self-support.
Or do it out of love, I guess.
Or do it out of love. So basically, the lesson is to make sure that you can keep maintaining your project, don't depend on donations.
I have a question for you.
Yes.
And thought exercise. You work at Topdesk, right?
Yes.
They've got like 100 developers?
Roughly.
And you sell a software product?
Yes.
Okay. Written in Java?
Yes.
All right. So I want you to start with your Maven file. Take all your dependencies.
Okay.
Throw them in a pile.
Okay.
Then take all the dependencies of those dependencies.
Okay.
And then all the dependencies of those dependencies of those dependencies.
All the way down.
Just throw them all in.
Okay.
Okay, but then I'm sure you guys use like CI, like Jenkins, like Tool, Eclipse, or IntelliJ.
Yeah.
Okay, so throw those in a pile.
Okay.
And then all their dependencies.
So you're now naming all kind of open source stuff.
Everything that's open source that Topdesk depends on in one way or another.
Yeah.
How many?
About 500.
About 500.
Yeah.
What
Maybe
would
1,000
happen?
even.
How sad would you or your boss be if Topdesk gets a problem when one of those open source projects sort of says, well, we give up, we're not maintaining this anymore?
Yeah, that would be bad. But like, okay.
So you have a license for all these 500 open source projects. Surely you do.
Well, we do have something for open source, but it's not this. Because if it's 500, and we need to figure out from 500 different projects, A, if they accept money or sponsorship, B, how we should pay them, like donate buttons, transfer money, international transfer, licenses, and then also renewals a year later.
Tax stuff.
That's a lot of work.
You know, if you say 500 different projects, that would be, and you renew yearly, that's still 2 renewals a day.
2 per day, yes.
That's ridiculous. That's a full-time job.
Yes.
Yeah.
So
maybe that's why the licenses aren't going quite as good as we think they should have gone.
Maybe.
And there is a problem there. And there is one company that thinks they have a solution to this problem. And we are not really affiliated with them, but they do pay us. So, you know, full disclosure. And they thought they have a solution for this problem. And what they do is you pay a single license fee to them, and then they will run some software on your system in order to figure out and make that list. Because even making the list, inventorizing those 500 projects, that's already quite a difficult job. And then all they really do afterwards is tell you about any security issues with those, and if any version that you have there is just no longer supported. And that seems real simple, but who here remembers that Equifax had this little issue where they leaked like 300 million records, right? That was because of a security bug in a library where 6 months before they got hacked, it was public knowledge, and the maintainer of that library did all possible efforts with the change log, with everything he could do, that version was insecure. So just telling somebody, hey, by the way, one of those 500 projects is something that is where the maintainer of that library or project said, hey, that version is no longer a good idea to use, all they really need to do is know about it. But apparently they didn't, right? So that's one of the problems they solve. And then what they do is they take that fee and they pay almost all of it back to open source maintainers like us. And all they ask in return is that we tell them that we are officially maintaining it, that we promise that we will notify them if ever we stop maintaining it, and we'll forward any security issues to them.
So what I hear is there's 2 parts of it. There's one thing where you say, if you are depending on open source projects as a company, and you have a lot of them, you can consider purchasing a tight-lived subscription so that you get updated and that you can give some money to open source projects.
Exactly.
That's one side. And is there also something for the open source projects?
Yeah, so for us, they pay us in trade for the promise that we continue to maintain it. And that sounds like a bit of a silly promise, but who here remembers EventStream out of the Node.js world? That was a library that was used, and Node loves their transitive dependencies, was like pretty much in every Node project was transitively dependent on that library. And the maintainer of that library decided, I don't use it anymore. Some random dude mailed him, said, I will take care of it. So he said, here you go. I will transfer the maintenance of this project to your GitHub account. At which point that person immediately introduced a minor version that hacked some Bitcoin wallet, and then a major version that removed it again. And in Node, most people have a dependency on like 3 star. So very smart. If you looked at the Git repo, there was no issue, but almost everybody out there, and I'm sure that whatever Bitcoin wallet they targeted was hacked. Right? So all that went wrong there is that somebody decided, I don't want to maintain this anymore, but nobody knew about that.
So we need to pay the maintainers.
Pay the maintainers. That will help the problem. Now, this is one way to solve this problem. I'm sure there are others, but I just wanted to highlight that there is a way to solve this 500 licenses problem.
Okay.
But there is still a reason not to go via Tidelift, but
Why?
to go for a license directly from the source, from us.
Okay.
And I think we get swag.
Ah, yeah. If you purchase a Topdesk license, you get stickers. And so if it's via Patreon or via your corporate license, we send stickers. Actually, we're celebrating today, so everyone here gets a sticker if they want. So just after the presentation, come to us and you will get a sticker. So I think it's now time to summarize the 7 letters.
To introspect on the last hour of our presentation.
So my first lesson was to make sure you have time to add value, clean your backlog.
For me, to make it easy for you to give feedback, release your snapshots.
To prevent instabilities or a maintenance burden, add features carefully.
And to have a stable base, but with room for innovation, mark new features as experimental.
To prevent nasty surprises, prepare for success.
And to get help from others while preventing legal issues, manage your contributors.
And to make sure that you can keep maintaining your projects, don't depend on donations.
It's kind of an interesting painting that we've created here, I think.
Oh. It's our own piece of art.
It's our own piece of art.
Okay.
Clean your backlog and release snapshots. Add features carefully and mark them as experimental. Prepare for success, manage your contributors, and don't depend on donations.
Thank you.
Thank you. Are there any questions?
How did you guys fix the license issue with previous contributions?
The question is, how did you fix the license issue with previous contributors?
Do you want the honest answer?
Yes.
We didn't. Well, we did email some of them and we got some responses, but obviously, we couldn't do that visual in the history because, well, it wasn't. So
we're just going to say grandfathered and hope that's good enough.
Yeah.
Any further questions? Yes, sir.
Did we consider joining Apache? Yes, we did, and then we didn't.
If you have further questions, we'll get into it later if you like. Are there any further questions? These two were real easy questions, so it's keep coming. Yes.
So try to repeat the question.
Could you repeat the last sentence again?
Yeah, so what do you do if like one or both of you aren't available anymore and there aren't any maintainers?
So what do we do if one of us is no longer available, or both of us, and then no one maintains it anymore?
Well, we're probably chilling in a box about yay big, but we don't really have an answer to that question. We would obviously, I mean, Lombok is open source, and the defense mechanism of open source is, hey, if the community cares so much, it's there, you can just pick it up.
So
right?
there is this one thing that we will notify at least Tidelift so that they can notify their customers that we are no longer in control of this project. So then the Tidelift customers can either decide to skip using Lombok or maintain a fork themselves. Yeah?
Yeah, we have no intent of stopping maintenance on Lombok anytime soon, but I will freely admit that is one of the many issues that open source projects have. It's kind of hard to do a handoff. But in fairness, if there is a corporately sponsored project, what do you do when they go out of business, right? That's always a problem. Yes, sir.
Question here in the front.
Lombok started as a way to add language features that Java was missing.
Yeah.
Because Java wasn't adding them. Is there any conversation with the authors of Java on that?
Good. So the question is, we started Lombok out of frustration of missing features in the Java language. And now the question is, do we talk to the guys that maintain Java on getting these features in? And the answer is yes, we did repeatedly. Some of them are now getting closer to being. So for instance, var is now in the language. And we did talk about with Brian Guts on our experiences with val, and we exchanged notes. So we listened to what they were thinking, and we were like, hey, that's smart. Let's make sure that we are compatible with these ideas. There's probably going to be, in future releases, some data-ish or value-ish
records
types, which can do things that we can't even do, so that's good. On the other hand,
and we coordinate also with Groovy, who more or less copied the way Lombok works and made it part of Groovy. So that's pretty cool. The one party we would like to communicate more with is Kotlin, because they're an IDE designed, like an IDE is behind the language design, and we think you could do way more in having a pluggable language that works well in an IDE. So maybe that's one for us to talk to.
But we would be happy if we could stop doing Lombok because Java was perfect.
That would be great.
Yes.
I saw one more hand. Yes.
What makes it worth it for you to keep on maintaining Lombok?
So you mean, why do we keep doing it? Well, obviously it's a challenge. That's one thing. The other thing is that we are using it ourselves. We hate boilerplate. We want to have nice, neat, and clean code ourselves. So my company's interested in that. I do a lot of code reviews with other people, and I'm always reducing the people. They tell our new employees, if you're going to have a code review with Roel, expect to only end up with 10% of your original code. And that's not just because of Lombok, but also because, well, if you have seen a junior's code, then you know that at least half of it is already irrelevant.
And there's also a bonus lesson there. If there is, keep in mind, it's best to scratch your own itch, because that keeps you motivated. So if somebody comes up with a great feature idea, and you're like, yeah, that really feels like, if I put on my hat as shepherd of Project Lombok, I'm like, that would be a good idea for Project Lombok, but personally, I just don't care and I don't see using this feature. Maybe don't do it, because you should guard yourself against burnout, but it would be a good idea to communicate to your users, hey, I'm not too interested in putting this front of the line, but if somebody contributes a pull request for this, we would absolutely accept it. And at the same time, if there's a feature that you are more against out of shepherd grounds, right, such as our two-string pull request, which was otherwise perfect, then be clear that you say, please do not spend a contribution on this, because we would not accept it. And also do that if you're not willing to take on a maintenance burden, right? So be very, very clear about communicating whether you're not doing it because personally it's not the itch you would like to scratch, or whether you think it's not a good direction for the project.
Okay, Reinier, I have a new problem, and I want to share another lesson.
Yeah, it's...
my problem is that they are serving beer here, and others are getting the beer, and we are not.
That is a big problem.
Thanks.
Thank you so much.
See you later.